Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to my YouTube channel if you're a long-time subscriber. Today's doc, if you will be about how Netflix killed Blockbuster. So there's a lot of perspectives, a lot of sides to this story, different storylines, and we're going to be diving into all of that today. So it's a very interesting story. I hope you're interested. So let's get into it. So, for those of you who don't know, Blockbuster was founded in October 1985, but that is not where this story starts. In 1978, David Cook, the founder of Blockbuster, or who would become to be the founder of Blockbuster, was running his own company by the name of Cook Data Services. He would service oil and gas companies, and he was extremely successful in his first 5 years of business. By 1983, he had made $8.4 million in public shares. Wow. Just 6 months later, David's company would hit a roadblock when an oil crisis began.
Shockwaves for oil prices, fuel crisis,
oil prices.
Now, there was actually a surplus in oil, which means that there was too much oil, which in turn made the prices of oil drop because supply and demand. A lot of the companies David was working with or providing his services to started to cancel their contracts and try to save money because they weren't making their profit margins because of the prices they were able to charge for their oil to their customers. This was not good for David's business. Eventually, David Cook decided rather than trying to salvage his business in crisis, he would use his $8.4 million public shares money to invest in another business, video rentals. David Cook knew that VHS tapes were a big business at the time, so he decided to take $700,000 and invest that into purchasing 7,000 VHS tapes. David wanted to dominate the market, give his customers a quick and convenient way to rent a movie. Blockbuster was born. October 19th, 1985, the doors to the first Blockbuster store were opened. With Blockbuster being a rapid success, David would continue to build his empire. David would go on to build a $6 million distribution warehouse. By 1987, David had expanded his business. By this time, he had 35 franchise stores. Later that year, a Blockbuster franchisee by the name of Scott Beck from Chicago would convince a man by the name of H. Wayne Huizenga. Scott Beck would convince this man to join his plans to invest in the rapid growing success of the Blockbuster business. Scott, along with Wayne and his colleague John Melk, would invest $18.5 million into Blockbuster shares. Now this actually gave them a controlling stake in the company, 60%, 20% each. Initially, David Cook and his 3 multi-million-dollar investors worked well together. Together they had big plans to further expand the business. However, this would take a turn for the worse. Eventually, there would be disagreements. Cook and Huizenga would disagree on financial decisions. This would lead David Cook to sell his shares of his own company. David sold his shares for $12 million. However, this would prove to be a huge mistake for David. His shares would go on to be worth $300 million. By 1994, just 7 years after David's departure, Blockbuster would expand to have 2,400 stores across the US, raking in a whopping $4 billion. Billion. with a B annually. Later that same year, Blockbuster would go on to merge with a company by the name of Viacom. In September 1994, that same year, Wayne Huizenga, the CEO at the time, would stand down from his position. We don't know why, but he would go on to other business ventures. It was just his time, I guess. So, in 1997, Blockbuster unknowingly was about to witness the birth of their largest competitor and eventually their business killer. So, I'm not going to go into too much detail of how Netflix started, but I will mention that the founders are by the names of Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph. Now, there are quite a few documentary style videos out there that sort of deep dive into the startup of Netflix. So if you do want to learn more about that, I will link a few of those down below, and they're all very good. So in the year 2000, Netflix founders Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph were having a bit of their own troubles, business troubles that is. They set up a meeting with the CEO at the time of Blockbuster, John Antioco. They set up this meeting to discuss the possibility of Blockbuster buying out Netflix's business. While it didn't seem as though Blockbuster's CEO at the time was at all interested in this offer, he was, however, curious to know what the asking price of the Netflix founders was. When the Netflix founders told the CEO their valuation of $50 million for their business, he allegedly laughed them out of the room. This would prove to be a huge mistake on behalf of the Blockbuster CEO at the time. As Netflix continued to grow and adapt to the fast improving internet, they would make a profit of $6.5 million in 2003, then become worth $10 billion in 2010. And that was the year Blockbuster would close its doors. But let's go back for a sec. One of the most controversial things that Blockbuster did was charge late fees. So if you were late to return a video to them, they would charge you a late fee. But in 2004, they decided to remove this. But they got a little bit greedy. Now, it's worth noting that these very late fees are the actual reason that the founders of Netflix decided to start their business in the first place, because they were sick of having to pay late fees. So, when Blockbuster decided to stop charging their late fees, they thought they were making an improvement. However, this only added fuel to the fire. So yes, Blockbuster did stop charging their late fees. However, they got even greedier. What they did was start charging people the full purchase price of any movie or video that they had borrowed automatically when they were late. Not only this, they would charge them a restocking fee after 30 days. This would turn out to be a huge bad decision for Blockbuster. This cost them a whopping $200 million. So, although they had made a few mistakes by this time, later that year in 2004 they launched their own online rival to Netflix. This was called Total Access. It seemed to be going well, and by 2006 they had gained 2 million subscribers. However, by this time Netflix was way ahead of them with 6.3 million subscribers. This didn't last too long, as the following year in 2007, the CEO at the time, Jim Keyes, I can't keep up with the amount of CEOs these people have had, but anyway, decided to scrap Total Access. He claimed it was costing the company too much money. Later that same year, Netflix, Blockbuster's biggest rival, would go on to launch its newest venture at the time, and the one we know today, on-demand streaming. The following year in 2008, Blockbuster would follow in Netflix's footsteps and create their own on-demand streaming service. The year after that, in 2009, they also introduced DVD kiosks in an attempt to compete with their second largest competitor, Redbox. In 2010, it was reported that Blockbuster had racked up a whopping $1 billion of debt. Later that year, Blockbuster would file for what is known as Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This meant they were trying to restructure and resolve their debts. Blockbuster was then acquired by TV service Dish Network at a bankruptcy auction for $228 million. They had plans to integrate the streaming platform into the services they were offering at the time. So, in 2013, all remaining but one Blockbuster stores were shut down. Their DVD by mail service and DVD kiosks were also removed. By the end of 2013, Netflix had now become worth over $21 billion. As of August 2023, Netflix is now worth $184 billion. So maybe Blockbuster should have bought Netflix. The one remaining Blockbuster store is still open today in Oregon.
At a time when so many businesses are struggling, the world's very last Blockbuster is still surviving.
They say they have survived till this day thanks to loyal customers and tourists. They also introduced a few creative ideas to fuel people's nostalgic side. Various merchandise items, clothing items, those kinds of things that you can probably check out on their website. I'll see if I can find the link and put it down below. But yeah, that is the story of how Netflix killed Blockbuster. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed creating it. I really want to put a lot of effort into creating these videos like I used to back in the day. And yeah, I hope I will see you back here next time. And yeah, bye.